Here's what's coming up on Network Africa. 5 civilians killed, 13 others wounded in a bombing in central Somalia. Twelve soldiers killed in Niger after suspected jihadist attack. Plus, Eswatini votes for parliament under absolute monarchy. Welcome to the show. It's the last edition for the week. Thanks for joining us here on Channels Television. I'm Joker Rogers. We begin in Somalia, where there's been reports of a car bombing in the central region of the country. According to the police, a car laced with explosives detonated near a busy market in the Somalian city of Bolaburdi. The tragic incident left 5 civilians killed and 13 others wounded. Somalia, which sees a wave of Islamist insurgency, has forced the country's President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud to launch the second phase of a major offensive against al-Shabaab. The country's military has made significant gains with capturing several towns and villages with the support of local clan militias, African Union troops and the United States air support. Joining us now is the VOA's Ahmed Mohammed, who joins us from the Somalian capital, Mogadishu. Thanks for joining us today. Kindly give us an update on the car bombing in central Somalia.
Thank you very much. Sources at the scene indicated that a vehicle loaded with explosives detonated near a police checkpoint in Bulaburda town in central Somalia. At least 6 people were killed and 10 others injured. Among them were security officials. There has not been any update on possible increase of casualties yet.
And has any group claimed responsibility for this act?
There's no particular claim by any group. Al-Shabaab media, the terror group which operates in Somalia, has not reported the incident, but Al-Shabaab has been known to be the only terrorist group to undertake an operation of such magnitude.
And we understand that the car, that was in this incident was rigged with explosives near a busy market. Was this a targeted attack at civilians?
The vehicle detonated near police checkpoint, so it remains unclear if it was targeting civilians at the market, but Al-Shabaab is known to target places controlled by the police or security officials in major towns controlled by the government of Somalia.
And Somalia has always had an Islamic insurgency. You said al-Shabaab has always, been suspected to carry out, all these similar attacks. Given the scenario, how's the country's military fending off attacks against the al-Shabaab group?
The federal government of Somalia launched a renewed offensive against the militant group Al-Shabaab in July last year. Unlike the previous operation, the current offensive has received support from organized clan militias, which have been instrumental in tilting the course of the war. President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud relocated from Mogadishu, the capital city of Somalia, early August, to central Somalia town of Dusamareb, where he has been coordinating the war. The military and the other security organs have in the recent past fended off Al-Shabaab, and through improved intelligence sharing with civilians and coordinated checkpoints at various points of entry to main towns in Somalia.
And what ways is the government, trying to calm the people down? What's the government telling civilians to do during this dangerous time?
There has not been a specific government approach to warning civilians during this time when Al-Shabaab increased its attacks against the civilians. But the military has in recent weeks urged residents in areas controlled by Al-Shabaab militant group to move to avoid being caught up, especially by drone airstrikes and operations against the militant group in the country.
Ahmed, thanks for the update from Somalia.
Thank you very much.
We move ahead now. The Democratic Republic of Congo is urging calm after a deadly rocket explosion left one person killed and 11 others wounded. The incident occurred close to a stadium in the city of Goma after a Congolese soldier who was holding a rocket-propelled grenade exploded accidentally immediately after his vehicle bumped something on the road. According to a statement from officials, the injured soldier and civilians are being treated at the local provincial hospital. The governor of North Kivu, Mr. Peter Kirimwani, sent his sympathies to the families of those affected and urged the public to remain calm in what had already been a tense time. And to humanitarian operations, where the departure of peacekeepers in the Democratic Republic of Congo has been a topic of debate at the UN Security Council. The United Nations Organization Stabilization Mission in the Democratic Republic of Congo, MONUSCO, says the withdrawal of its peacekeepers is aimed firstly to diffuse ever-increasing tensions between MONUSCO and the civilian population.
MONUSCO's progressive departure from the DRC has been underway for some time. During his address to the UN General Assembly, the President Tshisekedi called for the acceleration of this process, starting from December 23. With this request in mind, I call on the Council to express itself clearly on the recommendation set out in the 2nd August report of the Secretary General on the future of MONUSCO. On 15 September, the Congolese authorities endorsed the revised transition plan for MONUSCO. This is an important step towards accelerating the departure of the mission, while ensuring that the process is conducted in a gradual and responsible manner. We will now work jointly with the Congolese authorities towards the implementation of this plan, while continuing to deliver on the mandate provided by this Council. Regrettably, the mission continues to be targeted by mis- and disinformation, as well as threats and attacks. I deplore the killing of civilians by national security forces on 30th of August in Goma. I am hopeful that the trials currently underway will provide justice to the bereaved families of the victims, including one police officer, and shed light on the circumstances surrounding this tragic event.
Elsewhere, 12 soldiers have been killed after hundreds of Islamist militants riding motorbikes attacked a town in southwestern Niger Republic. According to the Defense Ministry, 7 soldiers were killed in combat, while 5 others died in a road accident while responding to the attack. It adds that over 100 militants had been killed in the counter-offensive, where local affiliates of Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State group are active in the area. Jihadist attacks on the Nigerian army have been intensified since the military seized power in a coup in July. Meanwhile, Niger residents are not backing down until they see a complete withdrawal of French troops. The firebrand Pan-Africanist Kemi Sheba led a large protest in front of the French military base in Niamey, the latest in a widespread demonstration that saw people gather daily demanding departure of French troops and diplomats. Although French President Emmanuel Macron said his troops would begin the process of withdrawing by the end of the year, many Nigerians have called for a more urgent response to the situation. The activists called on Nigerians to rise up against the French and said that West African leaders who aligned themselves with France were traitors. Well, it seems as though Russian President Vladimir Putin has taken some sort of diplomatic interest in Africa. Yesterday, he had a meeting with Sudan's President Salva Kiir. But this time, we're learning Mr. Putin has held talks with the military leader of eastern Libya, Khalifa Haftar, in the Russian capital, Moscow. General Haftar's forces relied heavily on Russian Wagner mercenaries, many of whom are still in eastern Libya during his failed assault on Tripoli 4 years ago. According to the Kremlin spokesperson, both leaders discussed the situation in Libya and the region. Voting is underway in parliamentary elections in Eswatini, where King Eswatini III continues to rule as Africa's last absolute monarch. Parliament plays an advisory role to the king, who appoints the prime minister and the cabinet. According to authorities, political parties are banned and candidates must contest the polls as individuals. However, human rights campaigners have dismissed the vote in Eswatini as a farce. South Sudan is bracing up for its first ever elections, which is expected to take place in December next year. The United Nations mission in the country supported a political parties forum focused on the need to pick up the pace in long-delayed democratic transition. The forum was held in South Sudan's capital, Juba.
With only 15 months left before the elections by December 2024, we urge you and the parties to show the political will to reach compromise in the spirit of consensus to advance the establishments of the key institutions, specifically the Political Parties Council, PPC, the National Constitutional Review Commission, NCRC, and National Elections Commission, NEC.
The parties should encourage political education and enlightenment to raise social awareness and political consciousness of the people. It is the existence of political consciousness and politically conscious man that enables democratic governance. If the people are not really conscious politically, you cannot talk of democratic governance, or you cannot talk of democracy.
More than 1 year since the roadmap was unveiled, it has been evident that the implementation has not moved at a pace which can be said to commensurate with its justification. Sadly, if this state of affairs continues, questions will honestly be raised on if the roadmap will deliver its endgame, which is a peaceful and democratic end to the transition period of the R-axis.
An election cannot take place if you don't agree on those mechanics. The international community and the sense of urgency they have about the elections does not help. The urgency falls on the South Sudanese people, and in particular the political parties, which is why we're going to appeal to you to work and help us in shaping and in understanding the nature of the elections you want to hold, so that we can also mobilize support for it.
Welcome back. The United States has imposed sanctions on former Sudanese Foreign Minister Ali Karti for what it called obstruction of peace. A statement by the U.S. Department of Treasury partly reads, other former regime officials are now obstructing efforts to reach a ceasefire between the Sudanese armed forces and the Rapid Support Forces. The U.S. also imposed a ban on a Sudan-based company, accusing it of undermining the peace in Sudan and being used as a procurement channel for the RSF. However, the Sudanese Islamic movement has responded to the sanctions, describing it as a badge of honor. The Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs is deeply concerned by escalating tensions and clashes in parts of northern and eastern Mali, including Timbuktu, Gao and Menaka. Although as many as 9 million people need humanitarian assistance across Mali from October 1 onwards, the Humanitarian Affairs Mission will start withdrawing from Mali in line with Security Council resolutions. Spokesperson for the Secretary General, United Nations, Stefan Dujarric, addressed a press conference in New York with these statistics.
The Office of the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs said today it's deeply concerned by escalating tensions and clashes in parts of northern and eastern Mali, including Timbuktu, Gao, and Menaka. Humanitarian agencies continue to provide assistance, reaching 1.2 million people across the country so far this year. However, this is only a fraction of the 9 million people who need humanitarian assistance across the whole of Mali. They also urgently need additional resources to ensure critical enabling services are in place for humanitarian action, including logistics and mine action activities. The $752 million humanitarian response plan for Mali is only 22% funded, with critical sectors facing even bigger funding gaps. For instance, food security is 18% funded, health 17%, water and sanitation only 14% funded. We need more cash.
And over to Tanzania, which is blaming severe power shortages in the country on droughts. The country's state-owned electricity company says the outages are expected to last until next March, adding that the national grid is suffering from broken infrastructure at gas-fired power stations and reduced water levels at the hydropower dams. Last week, rationing measures were introduced across the country. But the country's president, Samia Suluhu Hassan, is warning that electricity rationing should be over by the deadline in March. The Giraffe Conservation Foundation says a dozen South African giraffes have been safely delivered to Mozambique earlier this month, and this comes after over a year of logistical and administrative challenges. According to the conservation group, the giraffes were taken to the Karingani Game Reserve in the south of the country, which is also home to lions and elephants, among other animals. In a bid to stand tall and be a voice for giraffes, the foundation says it's working with campaigners in Cameroon, Namibia, Uganda, and beyond. Restocking the park's giraffe population is just the beginning of its ambitious plans to grow a much larger population in Mozambique. And here in Nigeria, the Chief Executive Officer and Managing Director of the Anambra State Information Communication Technology Agency, Mr. Chukwuemeka Agbata, is advocating positive narratives for Anambra State in southeast of Nigeria as Wikimedia Anambra Network celebrates 1 year in Awka, the state capital. The event targets raising awareness about the significance of Wikimedia's presence in Anambra State as a major open source for information sharing. President of Wikimedia User Group, Anambra Network, Mrs. Ngozi Osuchukwu, says the focus will be on digital literacy, skills and digital information management, empowering individuals to contribute to open knowledge in a progressive manner. Meanwhile, Mr. Agbata emphasizes that Anambra State, under the administration of Professor Chukwuma Soludo, is flourishing and deserves to be portrayed in a more positive light, urging citizens to take up the challenge of crafting positive narratives for the state.
Be reminded that Wikimedia is all about information, media, and digital literacies. Yes, this is 21st century, and we all should be computer savvy. It's no longer traditional, and that is one thing Wikimedia is doing for everybody. If you want to know more about digital literacy, if you want to work in digital spaces, if you want to tell your own stories, you need to be a volunteer in Wikimedia, because this is where you learn all these things. you begin to tell your own stories. When you open your net, you read about one small community in US. You read about Texas, you read about ranching, you read about even small streets and small bars. Why don't you come in to tell your own stories? Tell about that small shack in your father's compound, in your community, in your school, where you work, where you worship. Yes, these are things we read about other countries. Let us begin to tell our own.
We can't join the bandwagon that all they do is just feed on negative news, because obviously negative news sells more. So I can tell you that I have the blessing of Mr. Governor on supporting various initiatives like this that will ensure that Anambra is placed on the map. Anambra is an A state. So therefore, on a platform like Wikipedia, our news should be everywhere. On the Wikimedia network, everywhere. Our news, our people, our business owners, our businesses. This is the state with the highest billionaire per capita. And you know, this is a state where there are very accomplished people who have worked hard, who have done things that others can only but be amazed. So we should be proud of our heritage. We should be proud of who we truly are.
And finally, at the mention of bagpipes, many perhaps will quickly think of Scotland. Well, back here in Nigeria, young and talented Chukwu Kalu is living out his fascination with bagpipes as he sets out to revive the art, which has been fading since Nigeria's independence in 1960. This report shows Kalu and his band take to the streets of Abuja, Nigeria's capital, with their unique twists on old melodies. Take a listen.
Chukwu Kalu and his band make an eye-catching spectacle, dressed in red kilts and making a procession down the street. By playing familiar songs with a unique twist, Kalu is on a mission to revive interest in the fading art of bagpipe music. It started as a three-man band and grew as it gained popularity. It's now a 24-member group performing at weddings and national events.
The vision moves beyond I, knowing about this as a person, to seeking a revival of this type of musical genre in Nigeria and in West Africa. So the prominence of this came in the early 2000s. And since then, we've been progressing gradually from three-man band to 5, 8, 10, up to 24 as we speak.
Apart from being a way to keep young people occupied, at $375 per gig, Mr. Kalu believes it's quite a lucrative pastime.
We are making our effort to see that young people, especially civilians, who have nothing doing, instead of engaging into crimes, that they should engage themselves into learning this special instrument, because this is a special instrument. I can tell you it's a special instrument, it is not common. Anybody who eventually learns how to play the bagpipe can never be hungry.
As the band marches up and down the streets, onlookers often stop and stare, some even capturing the spectacle on their phones.
What I like most is the dressing. This dressing. The dressing can just move you. Whatever you are doing, you will just say, let me see what these people are up to. Yes, they are dressing. They are neat with what they are wearing that is different from what other people are wearing. I think they are unique.
Kalu also has training sessions for the Nigerian police and local youth in Abuja, where he teaches the secrets of this unique musical instrument. He hopes to one day visit the National Piping Centre in Scotland with his band and solidify the connection between his Nigerian roots and the Scottish influence that has shaped his musical journey.
The things that people love. Well, that's it on the program today and for the week. Thank you for watching. I'm Jokia Rogers. Bye for now.